You know, there hasn't been a single terror attack on U.S. soil since September 11th, but are the security systems in airports any better? And if those systems fail, how can passengers who see suspicious activity keep themselves safe? With me now, we've got former FBI profiler Candace DeLong, former director of security for Northwest Airlines Douglas Laird, and Bogan Zakovich is a former inspector on the Federal Aviation Administration's Red Team. He conducted undercover exercises to expose holes in airport security. Bogan, when you hear details of an incident like this, does it sound to you like a terror cell doing a dry run?
Well, I think it's important not to overreact to something like this. But the reality is that if they wanted to do a surveillance like this, they very well could. But as far as this individual situation, I'm not sure.
What about when you have the President of the United States and Tom Ridge coming out telling Americans to be on higher alert? Do you think that's going to cause overreaction, or do you think that these people that were flying on this plane responded appropriately?
Well, like I said, it's important not to overreact, but it's also important not to underreact. And the reality of the world we're in right now is that if the terrorists wanted to conduct another 9/11 type attack, they could very well do it.
Why is that?
Because security is not really that much better than it was on 9/11, in spite of all the money that's gone into it.
Why?
As you may know, I filed a whistleblower complaint against FAA regarding what happened leading up to 9/11, and absolutely nobody in the federal government has taken the time to learn the lessons of why that actually occurred. So we're basically making the same mistakes now that we did 3 years ago.
Douglas Laird, do you agree?
No, I don't. Several things I think he is incorrect on. One is that since 9/11, we've gone to 100% hold baggage screening at many airports using EDS or computer tomography, which is a marvelous way of finding devices in suitcases. Secondly, and probably more important, after 9/11, as you may recall, we've reinforced the cockpit doors so that a group of individuals with box cutters could no longer get into the cockpit. The unfortunate thing about what happened on the event we spoke of earlier this evening was that those people on the flight took a number of events, put them together, and came up with a scenario that I think just isn't true.
Do you think they responded inappropriately?
It's not that they didn't. It's not that they did not respond. I feel for the fact that they were terrified. The problem is that they took bits and pieces of information and assembled them incorrectly and came to conclusions that are false. And I think that was shown by the fact that nothing happened. Furthermore, if these individuals, these men on the flight, were going to conduct a dry run, so to speak, they certainly wouldn't have 14 individuals bringing attention to themselves.
So why did the FBI appear at the airport? Again, we understand that was because of the flight attendants. And I'm certainly not being argumentative in my questioning of you. How common is that for FBI agents, for TSA agents, for local law enforcement officers to actually greet a plane and take 14 members aside, people flying on that plane aside, and talk to them?
Several things would have happened as that flight made its way from Detroit to Los Angeles. You can be assured that the pilot was aware of what was happening in the cabin of the aircraft, that the captain was communicating with the Systems Operation Control Center of Northwest Airlines in Minneapolis, and they in turn would have been in touch with the TSA and so forth. It's a standard procedure to do interviews in such a situation for a variety of reasons. Also, keep in mind that at large airports such as LAX, there are FBI agents permanently assigned to those airports and available 24 hours a day to sort out situations such as this.
All right, Candace DeLong, talk about what passengers on domestic air flights in the United States need to look for so they don't overreact or underreact to possible dry runs or terror attacks in progress.
Well, I think the previous gentleman brought up a good point. It's unlikely that if it was a real dry run of a terrorist group that 14 of them would have been on the same flight. and acting the way they were. But Joe, we really don't know exactly what to look for. I would certainly want to talk to actor James Woods, as you mentioned, and find out exactly what did he see. The four, what we later found out were real terrorists that acted on 9/11. What did he see them doing on August 1st? It's important that people not overreact, but I can tell you this, and I fly a lot myself, and I flew a lot shortly after 9/11, I just keep my eyes on everyone, and if anybody really gets out of line, I'm prepared to stand up and act and ask other passengers around me to assist.
All right, Candace DeLong, Douglas Laird, and Bogan Zakovich, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're going to be back with more from Ann and Kevin Jacobsen right after this short break. With us again is Annie and Kevin Jacobsen. I'd like to tell both of you that we have been flooded with emails. I know, Annie, you said that you were flooded with emails after you wrote your letter, wrote your column this past hour. We get tons of email every night, but I'll tell you what, we've been absolutely flooded tonight, and I want to read you an email that we just got from a viewer who said, I'm an airline captain for a major U.S. airline company and have personally had what I consider a dry run by Middle Eastern men on one of my flights. As a result, I'm going to attend the federal program that arms pilots. I strongly agree with your guests that something is brewing regarding this matter. Annie, is that a lot like the emails you've been getting over the past week?
I think that pretty much sums it up, Joe. And, you know, the thing that's so disturbing is that if you do have these dry runs going on, eventually it's not going to be a dry run because the dry runs are all going to have been run. And then what?
Kevin, are you going to get back on a flight anytime soon?
I've been thinking a lot about it, and no, I'm not. And my frustration is that I've been traveling to India a lot. I've been there 3 times in the last year, and I have a business where I go there. And I'm not sure what to do, but no, I don't want to get on a plane.
You know, you all don't sound angry to me. I'll tell you, I had something happen. I won't go into great detail, but it was about a year ago. We actually flew up the Hudson River, flew right over Ground Zero, and there was somebody in the restroom that had been suspicious. I'd been looking at the entire flight, and I fly all the time. I rarely get suspicious of anybody. I was suspicious. We were actually flying over New York City, over Ground Zero. We went up the Hudson and took a right. Must have been 5 seconds away from the Empire State Building. And afterwards, I asked the pilot, I said, do you guys take that route usually? He goes, no, we haven't done that in a while. I was like, I wonder why. Annie, some people just don't get it, do they?
I don't know. But, Joe, you know, I do have one question, and it's off the former FBI director's comment that a thorough investigation had been done. And I myself spoke with a gentleman named Dave Adams after the incident, and he actually called me when he got wind I was writing a story. And I'd like to know what thorough is, because I asked Dave what kind of instruments they had. And he told me that they actually hadn't gotten that far into the weeds, is what he said.
All right. Thank you all so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. And I want to tell all of you, we're going to stay on top of this story that the Jacobsens have brought to us. Email me at joe.msnbc.com. We'll see you tomorrow night.